Hi everyone, welcome back to What's Ahead. I know it's been a long break from the podcasts, but we're back. I am Sunidhi Suri, and today with me I have Dushyant Mishra over here. He is the founder of unLearn.cool, where he is currently helping bright minds unlearn and prepare to make an impact. He also helps his 13-year-old daughter run a non-profit organization that she has set up. It is called as Letters for Change. It is a completely student-run initiative, and college students from across the country come together to run it like a startup and learn along the way. Dushyant did his metallurgical engineering from NIT Rourkela, and he completed his PG Diploma in Rural Management from IRMA. He believes that small things in life are the great teachers. He is also an avid driver who has completed the Golden Quadrilateral drive. He has driven on some of the most treacherous roads in the Himalayas. Dushyant has also driven to the Khardung, one of the highest motorable roads in the world. He also admires history and culture a lot. I have actually had multiple touch points with Dushyant Mishra over the past year, so I thought it would be the best to call him on this podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Sunidhi. That was a wonderful introduction, a very detailed one, I must say. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm absolutely happy, excited, and very nervous. Let me share that secret.
It's all right to be nervous. Even I'm very nervous, to be honest. Right. So if we move on to like the early life, right? Would you like to tell a little bit about your early life and what you do?
Okay. So when you talk of early life, one, it makes me feel old. So
There is no need to feel
uh,
old.
I grew up in Rajasthan, and I was privileged, I would say, that I studied in different schools across different cities. So change became, or accepting change became a part of life. We changed like, I think, 7 schools over 12 years and 7 houses or 8 houses. So that made me open to accepting new friends, meeting new people, going to new school, and settling in very quickly. Then what else do I remember from my early days? While growing up, weather used to be very predictable. And that's something that you will talk about, climate change. Then food used to be only home cooked. We would not eat out. The amount of food that we eat out now. What else? I used to cycle a lot. I was always found on my cycle. I would just go all around the town. It was my favorite thing to do, and play a lot. So now I live in Mumbai. There are hardly any open spaces. I don't see children getting an opportunity to play. But we had large grounds we could play in. And you've talked about my engineering, you've talked about my master's. Then I got into the regular corporate world, professional life. I worked across various organizations and then got out to be on my own. For the last 10 years, I've been on my own. And that's been my journey.
Right. So, as most listeners of this podcast are college students, right? They would want to know how you spent your time in college and what were some of the activities that you did in college.
Okay. So I always say this that I learned the most in college after probably the first 4 years of my life. The first 4 or 5 years of your life are when you learn the most, right? From walking, talking, and falling and getting up and all those things. So it was pretty similar for me in college. When I walked into college, I was naive. I didn't know anything. I came from a government school. I couldn't speak in English. So the first thing that I started with was that I should learn English. So I made friends with people, and I was privileged to be in a college which had people from all across the country, and quite literally. So we had a quota for every state, and we had people from every state. We had people from Manipur, Meghalaya, Himachal, Punjab, uh, Andaman and Nicobar, Kerala, and so on. That was a potpourri of kind. So the top of the topmost things that I remember, of course, they taught me engineering. They tried to teach me engineering, which I would say that I learned a little bit of, and I did work as an engineer for a year. But the best things I remember is one, I learned communication, both spoken and verbal as in and written. The second thing that I learned is I learned interacting with people, interpersonal skills. Living in a hostel, there's so much that you have to do with people in a hostel. You depend on them for so many things, and they depend on you.
That's so true.
So that's a very important thing. Then the next thing that I learned is being on my own, which was a very important skill. Traveling, we used to travel for 2 days to reach college from home, and back to home, we used to travel for 2 days. And being on my own, managing my own money, whatever little money I had. Of course, my parent used to give it to me, but I was responsible for that money that I would get. And I had to budget and I had to plan. So there were days, towards the end of the month, and I would be like, oh my God, I'm really hungry. I want to eat something. The food is not so good. So can I go and have a Maggie? And a Maggie used to cost 6 rupees back then. And I would say, no, let's not do that. And maybe just have some dal rice. Sometimes even maybe go hungry. So that's something that I learned. Then I learned, I was a quizzer in college. I explored quizzing. I explored some sports. I explored, organizing events in college. So we didn't have this concept of clubs, which is very restrictive, is what I feel.
Right.
So pardon me for saying this, in today's colleges, once you join a college and you join a club, then it is extremely difficult for you to change or join another club in most colleges. It's easier to get into the Indian cricket team than to join a club. So we didn't have things like this. We were a very open culture, and you could be a part of the debating set of people, and then next year you could join, say for example, quizzing, and the next year you could join something else, and the next year you could join something else. You could become a part of a dance troupe or so on. So that gave us an opportunity to try many things. It was not restrictive. It was not that just because I have become a part of the debating society, then I have to be a part of debating society all through. And the only aspiration I can have is becoming a president of debating society. But we didn't have that. What else did I take back from college? I took back a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll share a secret here. You are in college, Sunidhi, and you relate with this. College is the last place you'll make friends in life. I'm not scaring you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that you will not win friends later. You will, but college in all likelihood is the last place that you will get friends. Because relationships here are not formed because of any reason. They are, they're the purest relationships in school and college is what you form. When you get into your professional life, you will be competing with people. And once you start competing, once there is only one person who gets promoted, at work, only one person gets promoted at the end of the year, then you can't have two friendships. So this is what I did in college, and this is what I got from there.
Right. So you talked that, you learned a lot from college and you took back a lot from college. So do you think that school and college are like the foundation years of life? And if yes, what should college and school students do to lay the right foundation?
See, school and college, whether we like them or not, they are the foundation. And that's the first time you step out of home. That's the 6 hours, 7 hours that you step out and spend somewhere else out of the protected environment of home. So it's important to step out and discover yourself as an individual. Can you spend so many hours outside? The schooling, which I call as in the teachers coming and teaching, is something that we all go through. And we may not like it. We may not like that. Why are they teaching me Battle of Plassey? How does it matter when did Robert Clive come to India?
Yeah.
And how does it matter that what grows in Madhya Pradesh? That it's a chief, the chief crop is, say for example, soya bean. How is it going to help me? So we may have these, and we may have that disconnectedness. But the beauty is that all these building blocks put together, they fall in place as you grow up. And someday suddenly in sitting in a meeting, you realize that, oh, what I studied in class 9th is actually helping me today. What I studied in class 7th science is actually helping me. And you never know when it will come handy.
Right.
So just absorb like a sponge. The second thing I would say is that college and school develop your communication skills, they develop your interpersonal skills, they develop, your individuality. They help you become a better individual. They help you discover yourself, that how do you respond to situations when you are, when somebody is eating your tiffin away, when somebody has torn your notebook, when somebody has, kicked you out of a play because you were not there. All kinds of things happen when we go to school and college. And when somebody says that, okay, you will become an office bearer in the society, but then you don't become an office bearer and you're heartbroken that, oh my God, I worked for 3 years or 2 years so hard to be a part of the society. They've not made me the president or vice president. What will I write on my CV? So the more important thing is that you've learned how to face rejection. So these are very important years of your life. And as they say, they are labs. They're very, very controlled. You have supervision by teachers, principals, directors, deans in all these places. So they kind of prepare you for life, which is unstructured. There is no supervision.
Right. So we move on to now the work-related questions, right? So you have a company called as unLearn. Prior to that, you have found a couple of more ventures as well, right? What would you say is the essence of entrepreneurship?
See, entrepreneurship seems very glamorous. Entrepreneurship seems very liberating. These are the words that people associate with entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship seems like, oh, I want to be the founder of a company, and I want to be on my own, and I want to be my own boss. While having said these things, the first thing I would say is that you don't become an entrepreneur because you want to become one. You become an entrepreneur because you have that streak in you. You do things. You believe in dirtying your hands and doing them with your own hands. You become an entrepreneur because you find a problem to which you have a solution.
Right.
And you are able to sell that solution. And somebody is willing to buy that solution. So that's how you become an entrepreneur. The second thing, all the glamour is from outside. It's not glamorous at all. So an employee, for example, when they step out of the office, they go home and they could be spending time with their family. But an entrepreneur doesn't really. They're always at work.
Yeah.
So when I joined my first job, it was a startup. It was actually a grad startup. It's a 2,500 crore company. And I distinctly remember one statement which my boss, and he's the founder, and he had said. So I was fresh out of college, a metallurgical engineer working with them. And one afternoon, he comes to me and says that, Dushyant, does it not happen that 3 o'clock in the night, you wake up and you say that, let's go and check the installation at factory. Let's go and see how the commissioning is happening. There was a smelting plant being commissioned. And I was like, is he out of his head? Why would I wake up at 3 in the night and drive to the factory or ride a scooter to the factory? That was the difference. I was an employee. He was an entrepreneur. Right. So his factory's commissioning was giving him sleepless nights. He wanted to be there. He wanted to happen fast. Whereas I was okay. I would shut my shop at 6:37 in the evening, come home and then be away. I hope that's kind of answering. So I would still encourage people to be on their own. It definitely is fun. It comes with a lot of challenges. And once in life, you should try to be on your own. And it's like cooking your own meal. Every day there's somebody else who comes for you. You can have a house help who do for you. But you should learn how to do this and you should know. It may not taste as good. Like in my case, it doesn't.
I think with this podcast as well, right? This is something that I am doing on my own. It's not like being an employee for something. I can actually feel like you have to work all the time and you have to it's the passion that drives you. And with an employee, it's more of like the work is done. So now I can go back and enjoy, Right.
You know the difference between doing something for the college society and running your own podcast?
Yes, definitely. That's like being an employee, and for the podcast, it's like doing your own thing.
Yes. Right. Wonderful.
Thank you. So another thing that I've observed is that, and this personally happens with me all the time, right? many people look for ideas to start up, or they don't know what idea, they don't know how to come up with an idea. Or if they have many ideas, they don't know how to shortlist the ideas. So, what do you think are some of the filtering systems that people who are in this position can make use of?
So ideas have always been a problem, with life. So when I was your age and traveling in trains, so there are these A.H. Wheeler's bookstores at every station, and these would sell books for people who are travelers. So you could buy a novel, you could buy a newspaper, you could buy these books. And very common books on those bookstores used to be अमीर बनने के 101 तरीके, लख लखपति बनने के 51 तरीके, है ना, और अपना बिजनेस शुरू करने के 101 तरीके, 101 आइडियाज, बिजनेस आइडियाज, इस तरह। बड़े मजेदार, हंसी आती थी उनको पढ़ के मुझे, मतलब देख के कि डू पीपल एक्चुअली बाय दीज बुक्स, एंड दीज बुक्स सेल, पीपल यूज्ड टू बाय दीज बुक्स. So what I'm trying to tell Sunidhi is that ideas don't come like this. Yeah. Ideas come by observation. Ideas come when you are very, very observant, when you are, when you're empathizing with people, when you know what's happening in the society around you. When you look at children and you say that, okay, this is the problem that children are facing. When you look at youth and you say that, okay, this is what 19-year-olds are facing. When you look at, young professionals and say that people who start their career face this kind of challenge. So, or people who move to Bombay, or people who Mumbai, rather, or people who move to Delhi or Kolkata or, any large city, this is the kind of challenge they face in searching for a house. Now, when you listen to those things, when you're observant, that's when you start identifying a problem. Once you identify a problem, you work on identifying a solution. If you can identify a solution, great. If you can't identify a solution, then it remains a problem. Yeah. So, for example, potholes are a problem. Now, this very well could be a business idea. Traffic is a problem. This very well could be a business idea. If somebody says that, okay, can I reduce the traffic problem in Delhi? Can I reduce the traffic problem in Bangalore? And who will pay me for this? Who will be willing to pay? So can I reduce the time that people are traveling, spending in traffic? So right. If I can develop an application which writes Google Map, which sits on top and says that, okay, every day when you want to go to office, I will give different routes to different people. Instead of giving the same route to everyone. So that the main arterial roads are not choked. Now, you are an engineering student. You could be thinking on this, you could be working on this, and can I use the city infrastructure optimally? Instead of having, the top two roads being used so much and peripheral roads not being used. Now, can I do that? When you start doing it, when you start developing a product, that's when you've taken your step towards becoming an entrepreneur. Did I answer the way you wanted it?
Yes, definitely.
So ideas don't happen. Ideas don't happen sitting, and looking up in the sky and saying that, oh my God, I'm having a coffee and some idea will pop up in my head. No, it doesn't happen like that. It always comes from a pain. It always comes from somebody else's pain.
Definitely. I think I've also observed it with whenever I'm coming up with any ideas, I would look around and try to see what people are observing. And if it's like a collective thing, then I would definitely zero down to that. Right. So moving on to the next question, right? I wanted to put a really fun sort of a question here. So what does the day in a life of an entrepreneur look like? And how is it different from that of an employee?
That's a tough one. Not that the previous questions have been easy, but this is really tough. So tough for a reason that everybody's day is different. But I would try and answer that. So for an employee, what happens is I'll talk of Mumbai because this is where I have been an employee for a long time. You wake up, you finish your morning, ablutions, and then you say that, okay, breakfast, and you start for work. And you plan to reach work time. And once you reach work, you know from the previous day that this is what I'm supposed to do. You made a list that these are the 5 things or 3 things that I'll do. You start working, you start doing the things that you're supposed to do, accomplishing, those tasks. And through the day, depending on what your role is, what your position is, you'll keep getting more tasks. Somebody will walk up to you, you will get a phone call from the field. Somebody in Bhopal will call you and say that, hey, I need this, can you help me with that? Your boss may walk up to you and say that I need this report, can you help me with this? Can you analyze this for me? Something like that. You will approach 5:36 in the evening, and then you will start wrapping up. Most offices close by about 6 officially, but it goes a little beyond that. And you start wrapping up, you wrap by about 6:37. And then you step out, you again commute back to whatever your commute is. In a typical city, I would say the commute is anything between half an hour to an hour.
Yeah.
And once you reach home, you shut. Then you take a new avatar and you say, okay, now I am with my friends, now I am with my family, now I can binge in front of Netflix and TV, now I can go out and eat, now I can go clubbing, and so on. So this is a switch on, switch off, switch on kind of life that people lead. And that's why they talk of work-life balance. Whereas an entrepreneur, when they wake up, of course, after finishing the morning cup of tea and stuff like that, they are already at work. Right. The mind is already there that, okay, what am I doing? What is the big problem that I'm solving today? What is the big challenge that I have to get over today? Definitely. And before your team comes on, you've already finished an hour of emailing, calling, messaging, all those things, documenting. So when your team walks in at 9:30 or so, if you have a team, you've already started. Or if you have clients, before they walk in, you've already finished some work. But the beauty is that being an entrepreneur, you can switch off it a little and you can say, okay, I need to attend my daughter's parent-teacher meeting, or I need to attend a friend's birthday, or I need to pick up somebody who's traveling, or I need to go to the airport and pick them up. So you get that freedom because it's your own time. You are committing your own time to a particular thing, which is not really easy when you're an employee. So if you're an employee in, say, Bangalore and your mom's traveling, you can't ask your boss and say that, I need to go and pick her up at the airport. But if you're an entrepreneur, you have the privilege of doing that. And then you end your day in the evening, but your mind continues to work. That doesn't really stop. So it's a continuous life that you lead when you're an entrepreneur. Where it's a switch on, switch off life that you lead when you are an employee. And that's why I always recommend, and I just add to this, that even as an employee, you can lead a continuous life. Because a continuous life is a better life. You can't say that I'll not. So people who say that I need work-life balance and they say that my work is different from my life are saying that I'll not make friends at work, I'll not fall in love at work, I will not, laugh at work, I'll not enjoy anything at work because that's work, but I'll do all these things when I come back home. That's not the best way of living now.
Yeah. Definitely.